everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Book Club. Today I'm going to be introducing you the books I am going to be reading in this book club and inviting you to read with me, or at least learn about with me as I share what I'm learning with you. I'm also going to be sharing about 2 books that I have read recently that are relevant to healing from complex post-traumatic stress disorder and becoming a resilient, badass individual. Hold on. My roommate just got like one of those mantle clocks like this, and it, dings at every hour. It's not even on the hour right now. I don't know.
Hey, Lucy wants to make an appearance too while we're just taking a little intermission. Lucy, say hi. Guys, this is my kitty cat, Lucy. I'm Allison. Did I say that? What's your name? Tell me below.
Also, tell me down below if you have any ideas on how to make this more interactive and cooler than me just sharing my thoughts and you hopefully reading and sharing yours with me. If you have any ideas, tell me. I'd love to know. Oh, I'm running out of battery, so I gotta go. Never mind. Okay, that's it for this one. See you later. Peace. Alright, we're back.
Lucy is back with me.
She heard me talking again and she came to say hello.
I know she's purring. She's so happy.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I was just about to jump into showing you guys the books. Did I already say that? I'm gonna start over. Okay. Hello, how's it going? I'm back. For you it's been 1 moment. For me it's been 1 hour. It's about being 1 hour. Played with Lucy. What else did I do? I texted. Had a productive hour over here. I charged my battery and now I'm ready to show you guys the books that I'm going to be reading. Okay, so the first book that I have already started reading about this far in is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Brain, Mind, and Body in Healing of Trauma. I actually contacted him and asked if I could share what I'm learning with you guys, and he said yes. So I'm very excited. I'm going to share a lot because there is a lot to share about this book. Honestly, I assume it's going to be the case for all of these books, and that's why I really recommend that even though I'm going to be sharing as much relevant stuff with you guys as I can, I cannot, just read it to you. So I really recommend that you guys get the book too, and then you can share with me what really stuck out to you as I share with you what really stuck out to me. I've already been highlighting and stuff. And really good book so far. That's what I'm starting with. The second book that I've actually started reading already is Coping with Trauma-Related Dissociation. It's a manual to work with as a patient and with your therapist, or just for therapists working with patients who are dealing with trauma-related dissociation. They took a lot of the book, like the manual what to do's from a book and manual dealing with healing from borderline personality, which is borderline is often misdiagnosed CPTSD. And so even if you don't think that you struggle with dissociation, I think it applies to everyone with CPTSD who struggles with CPTSD. So I'm learning a lot from that. I'll also share insights from that book starting next week. That book and Trauma Holds the Score. The Body Holds the Score. Keeps the score. Get it right. Okay. The next book that I'm going to be reading is Complex PTSD. Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. I've heard just amazing things about this book. Pretty darn excited. Another CPTSD narcissistic abuse survivor thriver on YouTube is Richard Grannon, and he has a lot of amazing videos, but he has a second channel that's very limited, concise, called Mental Health Fortress or something like that, and he had a conversation with Pete Walker about how to heal from CPTSD in a nutshell, and he's making videos on that over on his channel. His videos are like really long, so sometimes I don't watch them all, but I think he's really smart when I do watch his videos. Anyways, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts from Pete Walker with you. Another book I've got is Healing Developmental Trauma by Lawrence Heller and Aline Lapierre. How early trauma affects self-regulation, self-image, and the capacity for a relationship. The neuroaffective relational model for restoring connection. What I like about this book is it talks about challenges from people who suffer from emotional difficulties being connected to 5 principles, which are the need for connection, attunement, trust, autonomy, and love/sexuality, and how early trauma impairs the capacity for connection to self and others, and how ensuing diminished aliveness is the hidden dimension that underlies most psychological and many physiological problems. So they have an integrated method that resolves distortions of identity such as low self-esteem, shame, and chronic self-judgment that are the outcome of developmental and relational trauma. While not ignoring a person's past, the neuroaffective relational model spoken about in this book emphasizes working in the present moment to focus on a client's strengths, resources, and resiliency in order to integrate the experience of connection that sustains our physiology, psychology, and capacity for relationship. So what I like about this is the focus on the present moment to integrate our past hardships into our present day life. They also talk about that in the trauma-related dissociation book, how we really have to start here now instead of starting on the old, like, because we have distortions about ourselves in the old, and so like we really have to get clear and focused and present on the present in order to, you know, rewire everything. All of these 5 dimensions of connection, attunement, trust, autonomy, and love, sexuality. So I don't know, I haven't read it yet, but it sounds awesome. It sounds excellent. Another book that I got for Christmas is The Happiness Trap, and what I really like is the foreword by Stephen Hayes, who has a TED Talk, which I'll link down below, on happiness. So I don't like the book, I like the foreword by this guy. I mean, I'm sure that the book is really good. I've read like a few pages, and you know, I just like studying happiness instead of like trauma and resiliency, but you know, I'm diving into trauma and resiliency, obviously, but I think this is gonna lighten it up. Anyhow, what I like already is the foreword by this guy, because he has a TED Talk where he talks, a TED Talk where he talks about how happiness is a choice. He talks about a lot more than that, but oftentimes people are more happy when they realize that they don't have many options available, and they're like, this is what it is, and they're happy with it. But when people have different choices and they choose one, they often regret not choosing the other, and therefore they cause unhappiness by having so many choices. And when you just like, honestly, like that book, tying things together, integrating all of this stuff, are just happy with what is, and you don't think about what else could be and what has been. You're just like, okay, this is what it is. That's who the most happy people are, who do that, who have that as a practice. This also talks about how you're not going to be happy all the time. Like, happiness is sometimes misunderstood. Like, what's your idea of happiness, and what's your idea of what you need in order for happiness to exist? Because maybe your idea of happiness is just not right for you, and you're trying to live up to other people's ideas of happiness, or like you're trying to live up to the idea of happiness that is infinite, and happiness just isn't that. You know, it's like a state that you try to tune into, and there's ways to make it happen more often, but anywho, that's what I think that this is about. I'll let you know when I read it. Who knows when it'll be, hopefully soon. And then the last book that I have right now is called Nurturing Resilience, helping clients move forward from developmental trauma, because I do hope to help maybe you, someone out there, heal from trauma. You know, I think that's what I'm doing right now. I get a lot of comments from people saying that I am helpful, so that's cool, it's great, but I want to be like a really impactful force in somebody's life. Pretty much work with them one-on-one, or work with like a group of people, rather than like talking to you and not really hearing from you, you know. I have connections with some of you, and it's super awesome, but like to actually be like you know, a coach to someone, like help them one-on-one, be a massive, impactful boost forward and to resiliency, nurture their resilience. That's my goal. So all of this, I'm learning all of this not just for myself, to better understand myself and what I've been through and what I want and how to go from A to B. I also want to read all this to better understand people like you and people who I may work with in the future. People on the planet, you know, everyone really experiences trauma. Who doesn't?
Not Lucy, I hope.
I don't know. Lucy has been through abandonment. She was left by her mama, and I'm pretty sure she was malnourished for some time. But look at how resilient she is. She's so happy now. Now that she's fed and has love, she's like, alright, I'm gonna forget about the past. Live here, be present, enjoy my life. She's a role model. Oh my gosh, she just stuck my whole finger in her mouth. Okay. Alright, so those are the books I'm gonna read, and I invite you to read them with me, starting with The Body Keeps the Score and Coping with Trauma-Related Dissociation. But now I'm going to move forward to tell you guys about 2 books that I have read recently and how they are relevant to healing from CPTSD. So the first book I want to talk about is Educated by Tara Westover. That is a memoir of a young lady who grew up in a very sheltered, survivalist, extremist, kitty just jumped on my back, household, with parents who she found out was mentally ill when she went to college. So she didn't even go to public school until she didn't go to public school until college. And then she went to like a Mormon school college and was still just like very much so sheltered and like stuck in her shelteredness. But then like later on, she heard a professor talk about mental illness and she was like, oh my goodness, mental illness exists? What? And I think that my parents are mentally ill. So that's like, it's like a pretty extreme scenario, but it was really cool to, you know, have been through my own experiences that were overwhelming emotionally and like see how my story could relate to hers in different ways. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. That's like how I gained most from the story. I don't know, is that how most people gain from stories? Like relating their life to the other story? Or do they get lost in their story, like forgetting about their story? I don't know. That's how I related to this story. So obviously she was very sheltered and it was unhealthy, unsafe for her. She couldn't rely on the people around her to keep her safe. And she was very distorted in like what was okay and what wasn't. Reading the book was really hard as it went on because when she was like a teenager, abuse was really bad for her. And as you're reading, you're like, oh my gosh, just get out. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Like, what? Oh my gosh, leave, please. And it gets really tough. And then even as she leaves home, it takes her a while to awaken, to get out of the fog. That's like what I talked about, fear, obligation, and guilt, to step out of that and see that her circumstances are really abnormal and unhealthy, so bad. And like you're just like, oh, what are you doing? Awaken, make a change. But that's kind of what I wanted to touch on, is eventually she does awaken, and that's so cool, and she finds distance from her family and her own resilient life. But it took her time, and from the outside looking in, I was like, dude, do this, do that, trying to push her healing, like not being patient and waiting for her to come out of, you know, the life that she lived her whole life. And I kind of feel like that about myself too sometimes. I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Get it together, you know? I want to be in this chapter of my life, and I'm here. Come on, like, why? Why am I still holding on to the past chapters? Like, I just want to move things along. And really, imagine life as a story. You can't just skip a few chapters in your actual life. Like, you gotta live through your life, and living through it is what's gonna get you from this chapter to this chapter. You know, if you were to just skip it, you would probably be in the same place as you were there, because, you know, I don't know, life doesn't even work like that. So what I want to take away from that book especially is that you can't rush your healing. You can't rush anyone else's healing. You really gotta experience everything that life has in store for you and do your best through it. Maybe look from a bird's eye perspective and be like, okay, am I actually doing what like I want to be doing if I were reading my own story? But for the most part, just like do your best and trust that there's future chapters ahead in which you are living a different life and you're resilient and like maybe have space from worse aspects of your life, more unhealthy aspects of your life, unhealthy habits of yourself, and you're really close to, you know, your dream life, dream friends, dream versions of yourself, dream whatever. Another thing that I want to take away from this book and share with you is how in the end she doesn't keep contact with all of her family members. Spoiler alert, she does lose contact with her parents, but she reaches out to her aunt and uncle who live in their town and nourishes a relationship with them, kind of to hold that space in her heart where her parents and the rest of her family should be. And, you know, it's not an equal match, and I'm sure that there's issues in that relationship dynamic as well, and like it's a confusing triangle of family dynamic, but for her personally it's important to have that family dynamic in her life. She can't just like say goodbye to everyone and do her own thing. She really wants that. And after you read the book, you might be like, why? But I think that we all can kind of understand that desire, and for some of us, you know, it's not okay and you do cut that all off, but for some of us, you do seek that dynamic out in your life. You want to keep it there because it's very important. And the takeaway is that it's unique for everybody. The whole, like, after the whole story is kind of played out, where do you go from there? How does it end? Like, does it end goodbye forever, or like is there some compromise, some maturity, like give and take that goes on? And so it's unique for everybody. That's all that I'm going to say about Educated for now, but of course if you want to have a conversation about the book, comment down below, and I recommend that you read it. I actually listened to this one on Audible. I've been talking a lot with my hands when I'm talking about that book. I listened to it on Audible and it was really good. Again, really hard to listen to in the middle section, but really, really ultimately so good. Ooh, I do want to, like, spoiler alert, one other part of the book, and it's when she's literally in Cambridge getting her PhD. So she went from, like, started at the bottom, now she's here, that sort of deal. And she's in Cambridge, and all of a sudden, like, the loss of her family and, like, all of, like, the threat that they put on her, like, the really terrible stuff hits her. And so she's at Cambridge, she's gotten so far, and she just falls apart. And she ends up, instead of working on her dissertation, watching all of these TV shows from season 1 to season 8 all the way through, and then she gets done with that series and she moves on to the next season 1, season 2, season all the way through, and then moves on to the next. And that's how she explains it. Like, she knew that she was have to do work, and sometimes she would be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting my PhD, like I'm gonna go to the library, check out all these books, take them home, get to work. And then a few hours later she would find herself watching another episode after she already watched another episode, you know, just like she was just stuck. And I feel like, again, how I related to this book, like I just have been there, you know, in a place where I was kind of grieving my family and like feeling all the things and doing what I could to not feel them and just unable to move forward. But one day she snaps out of it, and I've snapped out of it, and now I'm here picking up all these books, learning, feeling motivated and excited. And if you guys are in some sort of chapter where you're just not able to do that, you're kind of stuck, know it will come to an end, and it'll be okay, and you'll be moving forward back to your real, authentic, happy, healthy self one of these days. If she could do it, if I can do it, you can do it. My stomach growled in agreement. Okay, so that's the last thing that I want to share. For real, for sure. The next book that I want to share with you is called The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. I think Paulo Coelho, one of the two. And it is just probably my favorite book of all time. I don't know, the Tao of Pooh is really, really good as well. That's about Taoism through Winnie the Pooh. Ooh, that's another book that you guys should read if you want. It's on Audible as well. I'm not sponsored, but hey, Audible, this would be a great series to sponsor. Okay, The Alchemist. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's all about Santiago pursuing his personal legend, what he was born to do, that every person on earth is a child and knows they have this little calling, this little whisper of what they want to do, and then they get older and the biggest lie of mankind, they start to believe that their personal legend isn't available to them. It's not up to them to be able to achieve it. It's a lie. You can do it. I kind of feel like this is my personal legend, this YouTube series. I also feel like some sort of artwork, like tattooing is too. Which I'm like, how can tattooing be my personal legend? But moving into my thoughts, I feel like your personal legend doesn't have to be something where you change the world. You know, is there something that you really want to do? Is there some path that you see yourself doing that would make you so exceptionally happy? If you could choose to do anything in the world, what would it be? That's probably your personal legend. And if you don't think that you can do it, I betcha you can. You just gotta listen to the omens. Listen to your heart when it whispers to you. And that takes a lot of... Hi! I ran out of space on this little chat. It's been 25 minutes. So what I was saying is your personal legend doesn't have to be anything crazy, and you gotta listen to your heart, which will lead you in the right direction. And that means, you know, not listening to your mind and to a lot of the other people in the world, because there's a lot of things trying to get you off track. But also, Santiago does get off track sometimes. And really, another massive lesson that I found in this book is that oftentimes, on the pursuit of his personal legend, if he were to get off track, it would be help someone else. It would be to help someone else in pursuit of their personal legend. So he gets off track for like a year, but in that time he helps this person significantly change their life, and they give him information that he needs, that he later on discovers that he needs in fulfilling his personal legend. So if you don't know what your personal legend is right now, if you don't think that you have one, maybe you're collecting what you need to be able to start on your path, and you are on your path. And maybe you're helping other people pursue their personal legends. And if you don't feel like you are, maybe you can start. Maybe in watching this video, maybe someone's come to mind right now who is on some certain path. You can be a better agent of change, of motivation, of something for them in their life on their pursuit of their personal legend. And that's a very important thing to do. You know, always make time for people. Always make time for, you know, connecting with people. You never know what's going to come out of any interaction. So make the time to take part in the interactions. And get a little off track. I do have a few notes here, so I'm gonna look. Okay, so I touched on personal legend and helping other people on their personal legend, intuition, following your heart, purpose. We all have a purpose. But timeline, again, just like in Educated by Tara Westover, his timeline got skewed, and you know, even when he gets off track, even when he wants to give up, it's all a part of the timeline. You know, everyone has their own timeline for healing, their own timeline for, you know, achieving their purpose on earth. Trust in yours. You have a timeline too. Whatever chapter of your book you're in, trust you're in the right place. You're where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be. Okay. So on that note, I'm gonna get going. If you watched this whole episode of the CPTSD book club, thank you so much. I'm really quite excited. Maybe you can hear it in my voice. So next week, again, we are going to be talking about The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, and Coping with Trauma-Related Dissociation. I don't know who that's by. It's by an assortment of people, so get excited. We're going to be really diving into CPTSD next week, diving into discovering things about ourselves that, in acknowledging, we can move beyond. It's awesome. So, alright. Looking forward to that. I hope you are too. Let me know what you thought about this and everything in the comments all the time, please. I love hearing from you. And I hope that you guys have an awesome day. I'll talk to you very soon. Peace.